The CXPod is brought to you by Netigate. Netigate helps you put your customers at the center of your business. Check them out at netigate.net.
Welcome to the CXPod, where we aim to expand people's perception of customer experience management. We know that customer experience goes hand in hand with employee experience, and we believe that a broader and more holistic view might even replace terms like CX and EX with people experience or human experience.
Hello and good afternoon and welcome to the CXPod, everyone.
Hello.
How are you guys? Hey Joanna, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. And yourself, Merete?
I'm good. I'm here and I'm very excited. We have a Swede with us today. Hello,
Yay!
Patrik.
Yay! Hello. Or hello.
Hey,
Hi,
allihopa.
Patrik.
Yay.
Hi,
Hi.
allihopa.
I
I
remember.
love Swedish. Sorry.
Yeah, we always say hey, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. You are located in Sweden right now?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm at my office at Lund University, here at the School of Economics and Management. Where I spend most of my time.
Very good.
When I'm at work.
Yeah. Nice one. So we're forcing you to speak English today. That's because, we are now an international podcast.
Yep.
So I think not everyone knows though, but we actually have listeners across quite a few countries now. And what a lot of the countries outside of the Nordics don't know is that Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish can be understood across, which is quite interesting. But for everyone else who doesn't speak, but they are different. Yeah, it's like dialects, strong dialects. But yeah. So, Patrik, we are very happy to have you as a guest. You are a lot of guests are sort of recommended by others, but in this case, it wasn't just a recommendation. She even facilitated for us to start talking.
Yeah.
We did an episode quite a while back now with Stine Ringvik Marsal. She's Danish, actually, and talking about CX from a diversity and inclusion point of view. And she said, we needed to talk to you as well. So here we are, and I'm so happy that we once again are going to revisit some of these topics that both Joanna and I are so passionate about, and believing that customer experience and employee experience is all about human experience. So so with that as a context, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself. Who is Patrik? What do you do? Where are you from? What is your passion in life? Give us the story.
Okay. I'll do my best. My name is Patrik Stoopendahl. I am a researcher. So I have a PhD in management and specifically in, my thesis actually delves into customer journeys.
Wow.
But with the perspective of trying to understand what happens to the decision-making process when people use their smartphones. So my perspective theoretically is a bit of a mouthful, but it's a socio-material perspective. So I don't see, I view human experiences, yes, but human experiences are also augmented or enabled by technology.
The digital.
The digital and technology, digital technology specifically has become so smart. The computational power is so massive, and we have artificial intelligence, all of these different functionalities within this realm that I would argue, and people don't have to agree, but I would argue that we can't treat consumers or customers as purely only human anymore. We need to understand the outcome of us humans integrating with technology, because that allows us to take different paths in our decision making, in our experiences, than what we learned from the theories of the 70s and 80s and 90s. So that's basically what my thesis is about. I followed 10 consumers in Sweden during several years. I did that with interviews and observations. And then I did something quite odd. I teamed with a British company called Reality Minds, and they had something they called reality tracker or something like that, which basically entailed that the informants that I had, which I had then gotten to know during a year, they downloaded a profile on their phone, which basically allowed me to observe all of the digital movement that they did on their phone. So this was not a cookie-based technology. This was
it was real.
It was it just channeled everything they did, each click, each visit, each search. With the search terms, I could see what social media apps they were using, or whatever app they were using. I couldn't see what they were doing in the app, but I could see that they were using the apps. And then I did interviews alongside this tracking. So every 24 hours, I got a tsunami of digital data, right? It ended up with 65,000 rows in Excel.
Wow.
which I manually had to piece together and try to find where can I find customer experiences, basically CX. So I treated this data as an expression of human experience and human practices, and then I talked with the people as well to help me explain. So that's my thesis. And why am I talking so much about my thesis when I'm supposed to talk about myself? Is because I've just recently come out of my PhD experience, and the thesis becomes you, which is a bit strange, but really is like that. The rest of the career as a researcher, you're much more detached from it's not so much about who you are, but as a PhD student and doing a research education is very much about finding your voice, your perspective. So I think that represents me in a very nice way, what I did in that thesis. And the thesis is quite managerial as well. I really try to provide insights that are practically relevant. So now today I am a postdoc here at Lund University, School of Economics and Management. I'm also affiliated researcher to Stockholm School of Economics, to the Center for Market Studies. And then I have a business that I run a little bit on the side. It's called Shape Agency, which I have with a couple of other researchers, where we basically use market shaping literature to try and help companies to, instead of reacting to the market, to make them see how they can shape it to their favor. It sounds a little bit like corporate sorcery, but it's basically just a shift in perspective, where we've been taught for so many years, since the 60s actually, that companies need to take in information about the market and then they use it to kind of do something on the market. But it's very reactive. And market shaping literature has been around for a while, but it's not until really recently that we're seeing like how companies can actually use it. And it's really about acknowledging that the market consists of actors and elements and technologies and forces, that if you understand your position in that system, in that network, you can start to understand what role are you playing, what are the market shaping strategies, what are the tools you can use to affect and change these dynamics so that they become favorable for you as a company. So taking more control of your success rather than just reacting.
Sounds a little scary too, right? If it gets in the wrong hands, you can.
Yeah.
So do you have any good examples? Yeah, I'm like, what?
There on market shaping specifically, you can see kind of from around the world. You have anything from a winemaker who tries to change the market in a way so that their products, the packaging becomes the standard. A lot of times it's about creating standards on the market where your product or your service can become that standard. But you also see ways of trying to shape markets, and they don't always go the full length. We had, for example, here in Sweden recently, there's been a trend on TikTok. I think it's a global trend, but very young consumers, often I think female consumers, they're doing these very advanced skin routines, and then they're live broadcasting that on TikTok or creating content for TikTok. So you have 10-year-olds going in buying retinol or anti-wrinkle creams and stuff that you don't need that as a 10-year-old. The skin is very sensitive at that age. You don't really need that kind of strong potion. And so we had a pharmacy here in Sweden, actually, who went out and said, we're going to put an age limit on 15. And what was really interesting was to see that dynamic, what that created, because they tried to shape, that was trying to shape the market in a PR way, but also to set it up so that, okay, then the other companies would maybe have to follow. So it's about understanding the trends around you, but also knowing when you want to go in and do something actively to try and force your competitors to align, and you own the narrative. Instead of reacting to that and just, okay, should we then sell or buy? So you take a stance on something, and that could be anything in sustainability, inclusion, diversity, whatever it may be, standards for packaging, etc., etc. So it's really exciting, actually. I think there's lots to do, but there's still research that is needed. But yeah, we're setting up this kind of interesting offering for companies who want to get into that.
It sounds like you've got your head down in so much very exciting stuff. It's almost like, how are we going to get all of this out of you within this podcast, Patrik?
I'm sorry.
And I like how you start by saying, it's a little bit of a mouthful, and I feel like we're already struggling to chew because it's so big.
All right.
Yeah.
But we can do it. Let's attack it.
Yeah. But then but my research it's customer journeys, but then I also do research on AI. I'm doing research on integrity and personalization in marketing and how that affects retailers. So that's a market shaping project. And then also have a project on what e-commerce managers do at work, which is a really fun project as well. So.
Yeah. There are so many bits and pieces. Yeah.
No one
we
knows
should definitely do. Yeah, exactly. We should dive into so many of these. I mean, and the whole, when you had me at integrity, like, what does it mean? And I would love to hear more about that. So hopefully we can find a way to loop that into the conversation.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think that covers who Patrik is, doesn't it, Joanna?
I think it covers who you are and what your expertise is. Absolutely astonished, really. And I think it's also, I'm thrilled to hear the type of work that you are actually investing time in doing, Patrik. I think, our industry really, really needs this kind of more theatrical evidence. Theoretical evidence and studies that can help us improve the way that we work in managing or working within the realm of customer experience. So
And it's great because I am pretty sure that when your parents or whoever, asked you when you were little, Patrik, what are you going to be when you grow up? This isn't what you replied. So now we're showing the world out there that this is actually something that you can grow up and become and what it is. So that's pretty cool. In the line of weird things, I mean, the weird jobs that we see across the podcast, but in general as well, because of technology and what's happening in the world. But it's very fascinating. And So, and we talked a little bit about this question before we started, actually, because we said, who is responsible for CX in your company? Now, you work at a university, but still, we're going to challenge you with this and just ask, so who do you think should be responsible for the customer experience or whoever's experience it is that we're trying to navigate when we're talking to you? Any reflections on that?
Yeah. I think higher education, and I mean, I have quite limited global experience of higher education, but from what I see in Sweden, at least, and I'm not pointing at any of the institutions that I belong to necessarily, but I think it's more of goes for all of them. I think there is this identity crisis, or there's this kind of dissonance between what you are delivering as a university or a college in terms of experiences for the students clashes quite hard with the self-image of who you are as a researcher. So first and foremost, I mean, in Sweden, we are governmental agencies. Formally, we are governmentally, so we are state employed. and the students who come here are meeting. And when we put grades, for example, this is a governmental decision. Like this is an agency decision that we put, and people don't really understand this. So schools are different in that way. But I think so when it comes to CX, I think we should all be invested in it. We should all think about. We should all work towards creating great learning experiences, because I think maybe it's not really consumer experiences when you go to education, but you need to understand the learning experience and goes into that. But what's interesting, I think, is, for example, that in UK quite recently, I think there were students who were actually demanding money back because they have a tuition system there in a different way, where they were not happy with the CX. Basically, that's what they said. They weren't happy with the learning experience that they had, and they wanted their money back. And I think, again, that kind of dissonance between, well, we're not really here to make your life fun or pleasurable or having a great experience, but we're actually here to provide you with an education, and sometimes a quite advanced education. And I don't know, I don't know if it's also taken to proportions of absurdity, because teaching and learning, and specifically learning, this emotion that you have when you do something that is difficult, it creates, you want to run away, you want to, when you're shy, you close a book, you stop reading, you just want to, you kind of zone out of the lecture. It's basically your brain learning. That's why you have that feeling. You get stress and anxiety when you hear something, because your brain doesn't know what it is. It doesn't have the compartments to put it in. You don't have the structure. So it's also, where do we actually need to, if I'm teaching students and they have stress and anxiety, that can also be a sign that they're learning. So I'm actually doing something right. So the customer experience, I think, in this world is that we have to teach students and let students understand that life is also sometimes quite difficult, and having those emotions can be purposeful as well. We sometimes actually need to be stressed. We need to have or have the emotion of wanting to close something down, but forcing yourself to stay in it. This is obviously totally different from, at least in retail, where, there's a speedy, nice, good experiences, keep people coming back. We're there to teach them. We're there to sell something to them. So it's quite the different goal. So
what you're saying is there's no journey that fits all, which is, again, I love that, because it's, and I've obviously this is a new take to it, but yeah, you cannot you cannot define good customer experience, because it depends on the jobs to be done, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. I'm just trying to translate this to sort of easy language when you're, So that's my brain going, I need to summarize this now. Is this what you're actually saying? So, but
it's basically that. Yeah, definitely.
I'm also reflecting over the customer journey, the student journey, which it would be in this case, and the management of working to systematically, proactively improve the student journey. Do you see any work as such as that being done within the educational sector?
Yeah, I think you will always have individuals who are more inspired by the thought of trying to enhance, augment, improve the student experience. But this will be very local, right? So you won't have the systematic approach to it, using a method or applying a method. I think there's a lot of disconnect still in this world of higher education where we could do a lot more better. I think another disconnect that is interesting is that we have a fantastic administrative staff. Usually we'll have a fantastic administrative staff at universities, which are put in place to also support the researchers, support the teaching. But they're talking about silos. There's some very clear silos between administration and research and teaching, where I would say for the supporting staff, it could be interesting to try and think about what is the journey that the people you're trying to support are actually going through to really enhance that. But So, but I think there's always, I mean, there are always, I mean, I think we do have fantastic support systems in creating good student journeys in terms of support, in terms of mental health, support in extra activities for students who need it, who has any kind of disability or need extra time to solve tasks, or get some extra support from faculty. So I think we do that in a good way. But again, we have that also dynamic where we want people to, I mean, we do want people that come to university to be taken out of their comfort zone. And we want them to, because this is also a way to prepare for a professional working life. You need to be able to enter into an environment that can seem chaotic and or unstructured, or you don't really know how to solve things, and then try to work out ways of doing that. Knowing what type of information you need to get a hold of to inform yourself. You need to learn to become an adult. I mean, here we have, sometimes I joke with my colleagues, and they don't really like it. But I usually say that higher education is like a waiting room for young adults to develop their frontal cortex. So that they can go into a professional life and actually, have some, think about the consequences, like think a couple of steps forward. Because when you're 21, you don't really have that ability yet. I think it grows in at 25 or something, and that's when most.
That's what I heard. The brain is fully developed at 25, and it takes 20 years to sort of raise a child. So as a parent, you have. Sometimes I comfort myself with that. So I'm 7 years in, right? Then you have 20 years to sort of shape and this person, but 25 years for the brain to fully develop, and then after that you're supposed to be learning as well. So you're not really done by 25. You just
exactly.
some things are set.
Exactly. So it's a special world in that sense, I think, with CX in a lot to be done. So if anyone is we could start some kind of CX agency targeted at higher education. I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of potential there to deliver some nice services.
What with your background, Patrik, both from the within the managerial, the customer journey, what would you say is capturing your attention the most today in the world of organizations working towards being customer-centric organizations?
I think I would say that there are, I mean, a lot, obviously a lot has been done. I mean, this is kind of the idea of CX and customer journeys has been around for a while now. I do think that, and now I'm a bit critical maybe, but I do think that there is still need for introducing other concepts or models to really be able to take the next step in delivering CX, or taking control, or even understanding what the heck goes on when people are making the decision. And Merete, you mentioned the jobs to be done is an excellent example of something that has been around, but is kind of now starting to, as I understand it, become more used, which I think is a nice framework. But the concepts that we've had so far that we've been working with, and I'm thinking specifically of the customer journey, has provided a lot of nice tools, perspectives, but there's still things that are painfully evident, that how we expect the customer journey to happen, how we expect the effect of the things that we do as managers in trying to augment the web atmospherics, or trace and track our customers moving around on the web, and all of these things, trying to understand why they're abandoning the cart, and all of these kind of things that you try to solve can't necessarily be explained by the theories that we've been working with, because there's so many assumptions. And I think one of these assumptions that is the most problematic is that we almost always assume, or what we've done in the literature at least, is when we've been asking people and doing research on customer journeys, most of the times we've kind of opened the question guide with kind of, when was your last purchase? And then we try to explore this from, so it's biased by definition, it's biased from the beginning.
From the very beginning, yeah.
And what I saw in my research is rather that customer experiences and customer journey, or even like what I would still say term a customer journey, because the patterns are the exact same behavioral, doesn't necessarily entail doing a purchase. But you still have an interaction. You have these experiences. You consume content from different brands, and that makes up a different kind of customer journey as well, where the purchase is maybe never completed, or it's completed after 2 years or 3 years, or it's completed by someone else. Maybe it's not even you who does the actual purchasing. So you ask someone, tell me about your last purchase from Nike. It's like, yeah, I did a purchase from Nike, but it was actually my wife who did all the research, or it was my son who wanted the shoes and he was inspired, but I did the purchase. So this kind of idea also that we have a company consumer relationship one-to-one, as we talk about personalization, for example, it's also this one-to-one. It's also a bias that we have to start to dismantle and start to kind of try and look for, how is this hindering us from designing other relevant customer experiences. And there are some interesting contributions on that, talking about the collective customer journey, for example, or the collective consumer journey, where we see collectives of families or friends, and how retailers need to play different roles depending on how that collective is moving in relation to the offering. We see research that is coming out very recently on consumer journeys in relation to sobriety. What does that journey look like, just to enhance and make people understand that customer journeys are very seldom consumption driven, they are goal driven. So for someone to organize your life with a lot of different customer journeys on your path towards sobriety is not going to be consumption driven. It's something different. So it's this kind of extent with a higher order goal that is governing why people are doing that they do. Or even the consumer journey in hospice care, which has been just recently published, actually one of the highest marketing journals, where they show how the consumer journey, when being faced with the diagnosis that you are terminally ill, also can be quite important to use to enhance or to understand what is actually happening, and viewing nurses as service providers and what that means. So I think what we're going to see in the upcoming years, at least in research, is a lot of contributions that do not speak about purchases at all. We're talking about experiences, service providers, networks. We're talking about situations in life where, yes, consumption, decision-making is part of it, and where this framework can help. But we need to start to think about what is beyond the purchase. And I think that's very interesting as well.
It sounds like we're going towards a much greater maturity or understanding of what originally we've always referred to as customer journey sort of management, but now we're starting to grasp that this is much bigger than a journey of before sale, during sale, after sale, but it's all encompassing of the influencing factors, the goals, the jobs to be done, the emotions. We've always said emotions, but these things are taking more precedence, which. And another great thing that you're bringing up here, Patrik, is that this is being used or thought about in not only in a consumer related buying, but also in hospice, in patient care, in schools. I've always felt that I think that this is such a great methodology that has the potential to help improve human lives, like with the higher goal, so to say.
But I remember
if we use it constructively.
I have to add, because a while back, I was discussing service design with just a networking conversation, and she, I think I mentioned it before. She said to me, I can't remember her name at the moment, but she said to me, like, after I was learning service design, I started to look at life from a service design perspective. Like everything I look at now, I look at it from the service design perspective. And a few weeks back, we did a podcast episode with Lavrans Lövli, who's sort of the service design's father, or at least I like to call him that and refer to him as that. He wrote the first book about service design, and and he kept going back to, and this was so interesting, because he said, we've become great at user experiences, right? We have all these apps now that make our lives easier, and there are so many sort of new developments that we can use, and life has dramatically changed, compared to 20 years back. But the customer experience is still missing. And I think, what I'm hearing is that's what you're saying, that we cannot just talk about the journeys and the design and the products and again, one size doesn't fit all. We need to, it's customer experience, and it's such, the umbrella is so much bigger than, and for me, it grows day by day. Like this CX umbrella that we keep referring to, it gets bigger and bigger, and it covers more and more. Yeah. But you can see it should probably become a religion at some point. No, that may be going too far, but you know what I mean? It's, we have all the bits and pieces, and we're so good at so many things, but we're still not quite there where it's all holistic and
No, exactly. No, yeah, 100%. And but for me, I think it helps to at least because I would say I'm more in the journey kind of space. CX is not really. I mean, journeys are CX and CX is journeys, but I've positioned myself very much in the journey literature, and there it's interesting because there we have this distinction between consumer journey and customer journey. These are being developed now, at least in the academic literature, in a very intentful way, and really define what is actually the differences between these two. And for me, I think this is extremely important to teach the students. So students coming out into the workforce, using this literature in their studies, they're going to enter the workforce and start talking about, in a very natural way, consumer journeys and customer journeys. So that's that's a tip for anyone who is going to get new colleagues here in a couple of years. Don't be surprised if they stop and ask, I think actually you're talking about the consumer journey now and not the customer journey. Can you please what's the difference for you? And then maybe they would share their definition of that. And I think that's also interesting because the consumer journey is basically, it is that holistic perspective, which is really fun, is that already in 2013 in the Journal of Service Research, which is one of the service kind of scientific journals, service research, very highly ranked, already 2013, it was pinpointed. We need to understand the network of all the different connecting touch points and aspects of this that creates the total customer experience, the total journey. But there hasn't been a lot of output on that, because, and I don't know if it's a methodological issue on that, or that it was too hard to really.
It's hard.
It's hard, exactly. It is very hard. It's hard to research. It's hard to grasp. It's hard to really know. We don't have the methods for it. So it was easier. It was more accessible. It was closer to just go, well, we have customer journey. We can do that. We have the touch points. We can get the data. And we were also being taught data-driven decisions, data analysts, data scientists, all of this, the mantra, which ended up creating a lot of data, but no one really knows what to do with it right now, which is funny. But I think the holistic perspective, at least, we can't solve it overnight, but at least start to get curious about it. and think about these things is where I see where you can do the biggest impact on the CX. Rather than doing incremental, as you said, on the user experience, or the kind of doing the app a little bit brighter, a little bit better, a little bit faster. If you want to take the massive big steps, if you want to be a market shaper, if you want to go, you need to really try to get into this holistic perspective of the consumer.
Absolutely. And I think you, sorry, go on, Patrik.
Yeah, no, and in that, I just want to like highlight the potential of really understanding, for example, and mapping, the journeys and the experiences people have within the partner network that you have. So realizing the touch points, not only that you control, but how the partners you have in your network, the suppliers, the different kind of collaborations that you have, and trying to map the stakeholder journey as well. So the stakeholders in the kind of CX or journey that you're trying to facilitate, who can help you with it. So you don't, it's not that but where does it intersect? I think so there are really interesting frameworks to try and get to this and provide it. So it's not you have to do it all by yourself. So there are stuff coming out, which is really interesting, I think.
Absolutely. I'm going to take us a little step back again, because we could probably drop the script today and talk about anything but the questions that we have. But here we are, and there is a question that I think also would benefit from your perspective on it, which is, normally we ask people, and then this is from your perspective, but also based on this experience and even your thesis, right? What are the key attributes then of a customer-centric company today, having all of this in mind?
Yeah. I'm actually doing right now an interview study with retailers, talking with CEOs and CMOs about what frustrates them with the customer journeys. It's just interesting, I can tell you. There's a lot that frustrates them, because I've been talking about challenges and constraints and capabilities on how do you manage the customer journey. I think first of all, it seems, and it would be interesting to hear your perspective on this, but not once of all the people I've talked about said that any kind of expectation or decree comes from, what's that in English? The board, styrelsen?
Yeah, the board.
The board about creating fantastic CX or customer journeys.
Yeah.
They want to know the KPIs and they want to know the quarterly results. Then they have to fend for this kind of perspective of the CX, and they're talking about, well, in the we create this fantastic now and then we can measure later. But what I do see, or what I've seen that seems to be a success factor, is actually some kind of organizing, a structure where the company can organize itself around solving issues connected to CX and customer journeys, where these teams use people from different areas of the company. But when you come into this team, or whatever you want to call it, there is nothing in regards to hierarchy. So
they're basically the agile cross-functional teams.
Yeah. And as long as you keep your marketing department organized according to pre-purchase, purchase, post-purchase, which seems to be a little bit of a way to do it as well. You have the CRM, and then you have the customer service at the very, but they necessarily don't talk to each other. That's not maybe the best way to do it if you want to create great CX. You have to actually get it cross-functional, but very much, as you said, the agile kind of team that doesn't allow for any type of, but rather we have this strategic challenge, we have this issue, let's resolve it, how do we do it? And then it doesn't matter if I'm a manager or if you're a junior. We approach this from the perspective of, we want to solve this in the best way possible. I think it doesn't have to be harder than that, maybe. I'm not an organizational expert in that way, but I do see how it can be quite logical to set it up that way.
It's so interesting. Sorry, Patrik. I was just about to say that a recent, probably the podcast we had the previous week, we were talking about exactly the same things as you came up with in your study here, that the challenge is that
the board
it's
and
not
the
sort of
stakeholders.
It's so interesting that the same things come up from different countries.
Yeah, it does. And I also think what you say about customer service not knowing what CRM is doing, which is classical. And, you know, I come from an industry where this is, you know, you see it every day. And also, but we did a lot of testing. So this was when Agile was a hype more than really a way of working. And I think Agile is great, but it's at some point it's hard to scale it. You can use it as far, and then, but I think what we saw and what in my experience was that as soon as you put different people from different departments in the same team with the same task, something magical happens. And so it's again back to the holistic view, right? Everyone needs to participate to be able to understand how to create a good experience. So, you know, the developer can create a good user experience, or the front end, and the back end can probably make, in the code to make everything work. And then the designer can make it look pretty. But if you don't have the same sort of North Star, and so I think it's great that it's translatable to that as well. But also what you pinpoint, Joanna, and I've been thinking a lot about this since the last time, how stakeholders and boards actually sometimes ruin for a great customer experience that could have driven the bottom line up a little bit. So, but
and a comment on that, because I think it's head on the nail on this kind of the North Star. So as I think it's interesting, because I mean, if we look at the academic literature, I think there's at least 16 different definitions of the customer journey. Everyone has the kind of own interpretation. And then I also saw this in talking to different companies, how this kind of way of, and it's so basic, let's have the same definition of what CX is. Let's have the same definition of the customer journey, of the consumer journey within our company. So product assortment, or, sales, or CRM, or marketing and customer service doesn't have 5 different local definitions, because then you also end up in just chaos and clutter. And then and the words lose meaning, and the words and once they lose meaning, they start being used locally within an organization, and that's also where you're going to get into some problems. So remind people of the definition, or have some kind of consensus when we're talking about CX. What the heck is that? What do we fill that term with? Same goes with the other ones. And I know there was this one person, he had almost like he always started all of his meetings like, this is a customer journey, this is a CX, this is that. Now let's talk and let's be disciplined around the different terms, which helps.
Great point.
It's quite easy, but it's very powerful.
It is. And I think this may be what you call a fire. There's an expression in Norwegian, I don't know how to say it in English, but I may brandfackel. But it's like, and sometimes I feel in the line of CX, and coming from a world having worked with a lot of CX practitioners, discipline may not be our strongest side, because we're so emotional, we care so much, there are so many things we want to fix it. So the whole disciplinary aspect of it, I think, is a tool that we need to get used to more and more to utilize. And this is the same, and I've said this many times before as well, how we need to be able to quantify and show to the value that we create when we work with this, because you cannot convince the board by saying if the customers are happy, they're going to buy more. They want to see actual proof of this. So so discipline, I think, is a buzzword of today's episode, I think.
But there's some interesting research. I don't think it's been empirically proven yet. So this is how it works in the literature, but someone comes up with a great concept, and then others have to kind of prove it, see if it works. But there is this contribution suggestion that how to measure the value of CX when it hasn't been converted with a purchase. So looking at engagement, basically, how do we quantify engagement that you have? So stay tuned for more on that. I think there could be to quantify that kind of emotional engagement that you can create, and then maybe the board would say, okay, that's a good KPI, let's follow that one.
Mm.
And then maybe it could, but
Yeah, that would be a good KPI.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be interesting to follow on, Patrik. Absolutely. Interested in combining two of our questions here. And that is because of the work that you've done within customer journey and from a digital technology perspective. I'm also interested to hear your take on voice of the customer and the usefulness or the usage of voice of the customer in what should I say, managing or working within the digital customer journey space. Have you what's your take on that?
There is no right now voice of the customer. There's only the data of the customer, right? But I think I think there's lots to be done there, especially in digital retail. But that's a whole different cookie, I guess. The problem is obviously also that they're stuck in this kind of data management and regulatory space of data and what kind of data can they collect and not collect. But they're facing a totally different future in terms of collecting first-party data, zero-party data, and understanding how to approach their customers and collecting and sorting the data. We talked about integrity earlier, so this pertains obviously to this. But I think from my experience also with a background as a consultant, I think most companies who are in a very limited space of movement due to different reasons, it could be regulations connected to the product, for example, whatever, you get very innovative very fast when you don't have too many options. And now with regulations on privacy and data, companies are now facing a much more tight space on what they can do. So they need to get creative, and they need to start paying and really get interested in the consumer and their perspective and their experience also in the digital space. I would say that there is a very, very high insight, that there is a sense of urgency. They know this. I mean, as one said, the next big frontier for us in e-commerce is going from short sales cycles to long longevity. And we're not talking about CRM relationships here. We're talking about true kind of relevance in each step of the way in how the business model operates in providing solutions or products, and not having a relationship where the tone of voice towards the customer is oh, you're back, here's another discount. Oh, you're back, here's another discount. Oh, you're back, here's another discount. But something else, something deeper, something more meaningful. But people don't make a lot of money, at least not in Swedish retail. So even if they know this, they also need to struggle, and they need to, be very creative with what they can invest into and stuff like that. So I think we also need to think about that aspect as well. Lots to be done, but someone has to pay, and maybe the consumer is not willing to pay, or who's going to pay. That has to be resolved as well.
Yeah. It's yet again, it's a different answer to one of the same questions, and we've had this question for quite a while, and it's interesting to see how every single approach is different. And also, considering that we like to say that you need to support the voice of the customer with the data that you're referring to, and we should do that more often. But now that it's become more restrictive, where is it? Because it seems like at some point there, it looked like the sky was the limit, and you could almost do anything because you could get a hold of all kinds of data. But it's so that's also an interesting perspective on what's happening in technology around this. So it's my brain is going high wire now. It's like so many thoughts and ideas, and we're actually going to have to start rounding off. So we have a final question for you, Patrik, before we're going to let you off the hook. But it's I love that you're so different from a lot of our other guests, and the whole academic approach to everything. I think it's so beautiful to see that customer experiences and even customer journeys are dealt with on this level as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So since we have a mastermind, I that's going to be my referral to you from now on. Since we have you here on the show, I would like, and I love, this is probably one of Joanna's favorite questions as well. If you were trying to secure funding to start working with customer experience initiatives, or to improve the customer experience, or even the consumer experience, if you want, and having in mind what we said about the stakeholders and the board, how would you approach it if you were the one trying to secure?
Am I working at the university, or am I working at a company?
You can choose which perspective you want to take, but make sure to let us know which one you're taking.
Exactly. Oh gosh, that's such a hard question. I think I stick close to home, so I would say then the university. Oh my God, that's such a hard question.
I love it when this happens.
Yeah, I know.
When we make them sweat.
Yeah, I would need to present it as some kind of innovative way of some kind of proof of concept thing. And I would put a lot of effort to show them how I would do it and how it would be feasible to do it, first of all. So really show that you have thought about the method. So it's really clear that whatever project you want to do and how you go about it is really that you will end up with results. It doesn't have to be, these are the results we're going to see, but this is the setup of what I should do. These are potential outcomes. Some of these some of these outcomes can potentially be very, very important, guiding for a strategy, It can also be this or that, but really focus on what is it that I'm going to do? Who am I going to involve? How long will that take? What are the steps? Why am I the right person to drive it? And not promise the world, not promise, the golden, fantastic ending. Because I don't think, because people can trust, this is what we can control. We can control doing this process, creating this proof of concept, mapping the student learning journey, whatever it would be, to enhance. And then we could maybe market our programs in a better way. We could compete in this or that and blah, blah, blah. But that would be, a bit more fuzzy. I think I would do it that way. And now I feel really inspired to try and do it, because I think it could be really nice to do it.
Me too.
I
I really like that one. That fits perfectly into something I'm working on right now. So okay, take that one.
And it's so realistic as well, right? Because we know that customer experience, like investing in it, we believe, from the bottom of my heart, I believe that investing in a better customer experience is going to be good for business, but it cannot be all the time and every single example. So I love that you just sort of pull it down to, this is what I'm going to do. And I might try to prove this, but I also may be wrong. And I want to understand. But I love it. It's so, again.
And it's just, and it's quite a scientific way, like because I think many times in industry and when I work as a consultant, it's like two things. Like either we want to kind of, this is what it's going to be, and it's going to drive this, and the turnover is going to increase or whatever, or it's this kind of that we're not very good in industry at always really like, what is the knowledge gap here, and why do we then have to do the thing we need to do? So I think really focusing on the process of the project rather than the results of it.
And I think we're back to discipline, right? Instead of being too eager to prove something that you truly believe in it, so you forget that there's actually a method here that's going to help you. So stay with the disciplinary. I think, and this is something that hits me sort of, because I'm disciplined, but this is also my weak spot, I think, because I'm such a true believer. So I keep forgetting that. I would sell it even if it turned out that it wasn't a good idea, right? Just because I hate to kill my babies, sort of. So not literally, of course. But, well, literally, I do hate.
But it's good, because if it end up in nothing,
it's getting late.
But if it would end up in nothing, doing it that way, you could always just go back to the board and say, well, it resulted in this, but let's also look at the process and what can we learn from the process.
Exactly.
You have a deliverable in actually just doing the process,
and look at all the mistakes that we can avoid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So
the cost of inaction. Great. I mean, we have to stop here. This has been such a great conversation. We are looking forward to having you back on the CXPod when you've
Thank you.
done this little experiment.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're excited to hear how it goes. Until then, we are gonna want to leave a link to your LinkedIn profile in the CXPod show notes, just so if anybody wants to follow you and your work or even reach out to you for more conversations about this topic, please have a look at the show notes. The link will be there. Otherwise, thank you so much again for participating. Thanks to Netigate, our sponsor, for helping us provide this show. You can check them out at netigate.net, and you have been listening to the CXPod. Thank you for today. Thank you for listening to the CXPod. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on LinkedIn, and please remember to follow us on Spotify and leave a review of what you think.